Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Udon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi. Sister?
The last episode, we ended with Villegas, Bishop Villegas saying, not the Catholic Church, but the Bergoglian Church. Now, what changed from the Catholic Church? What did that mean? What change did that mean? Or it's showing now what change that meant.
Yeah, it's beginning to show. The point is when the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference said that, nobody noticed it. Not one of the
Yes.
bishops noticed it.
Yes,
Because nobody knew what Bergoglian Church meant.
yes. I guess if you mentioned that, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, because they thought Bergoglian Church means the Catholic Church because Bergoglio was the head, is the Pope. Yeah. They did not realize that Pope Bergoglio, Pope Francis, had written a book when he was in Argentina, when he was just a bishop, called the Church of Charity.
Okay.
It was based on the book of Cardinal Casper on charity. So Bergoglio worked on that and started to devise a church based on the charity described by Cardinal Casper. Now, Cardinal Casper is not a very good theologian, though Pope Francis considered him as the best. But he's hardly written anything.
Okay.
He's no theologian at all. And his concept of charity is defective. It's not Thomasian. It's not of
That time Thomas of
St. Thomas of Aquinas. And so to build a church on a wrong concept of charity would be a building up a wrong church.
disastrous.
And so when Bishop Villegas mentioned that we must leave the old Catholic Church and gave the reason because it's old and it's sickly and it's defective now by now, and follow the Bergoglian Church, nobody got it. Nobody got it because nobody knew about the book written by Bergoglio when he was a bishop of Argentina. But it is appearing more and more now because if you notice the idea of changing, not necessarily for the better, but for the worse, comes from the devil. That's what happened in paradise. It comes from the devil. So you must look for signs that it comes from the devil, which is first, it's a lie.
Yeah, that's
It's
the devil.
deceitful because he's the father of
Of lies.
lies. And we know very well that today, one of the biggest movement that we think really is diabolical is communism. Communism because it's atheistic.
Yes.
And the Catholic Church during Vatican II was first becoming heretical, but now it's becoming more communistic. But you know, the communist philosophy is condemned by the Catholic Church for being atheistic. It doesn't believe in God and so on like that. And what's happening now is people are no longer pleasing God. It's like saying they don't believe in God. And so it is an ideal situation for the communists to take over. And so the Catholic Church has turned into becoming a communist philosophy. And this is not strange because what you call the among the South Americans, the
Liberation.
theology is very communistic, and that has been condemned by Pope Benedict, and so it is really a communist movement, and many priests have been involved
Yes.
in the liberation theology. In the Philippines, we have plenty. I have companions in the monastery before who have entirely joined the communist movement because of liberation theology. It is really communistic, and the emphasis of communism is they pretend to help the poor.
Yes, that
It's
seemed to
always
be
like that.
that liberation theology. If you don't understand it, that seemed to be the focus.
Okay, liberation theology is like that.
Diba? Yes.
Help the poor.
So if you
So
don't know exactly what it meant,
yeah,
it seemed good.
Because guys, deceptive. It's diabolical. It's
Deceptive.
deceptive. No? So they pretend to help the poor. But look for a communist country that helps the poor. No, nobody helps. I mean, Venezuela is a communist country. It's supposed to be one of the richest nations because of the oil. They have plenty of oil. But the poor, everybody there, even the rich, are starving to death. So it's really a big lie, but everybody is believing it. That's why, if you notice, it is now a fad in the Catholic Church to call the Catholic Church the Church of the Poor.
See.
I mean, when did the Catholic Church become the Church of the Poor? The Catholic Church has been for everybody, the rich, the poor, the young, the old, so on like that. How come suddenly it's the Church of the Poor? It's not. That in itself is a heresy to say that the Catholic Church is the Church of the Poor.
Probably they want us to believe that they are concerned about the poor.
Yeah, pretension. They're really pretending they're concerned, so on like that.
But Father, helping the poor, isn't it more important to help them in spiritual aspect of their person?
Yeah. In fact, Christ said so. Even if you feed the hungry and so on, if you perform miracles and make people prosperous and so on, but if you have no charity,
Yes, Father.
he said that. Christ said, you're nothing. So the Catholic Church is a church of love, of charity. It's not the church of the poor.
Yes, Father.
So you can see there is already something heretical in what they're teaching. Because the church today precisely is becoming communistic. If you notice, the Catholic Church loves the communists very much. Communist countries, communist leaders, they love them very, they're given priority in everything. The Pope Francis is condemning capitalism in the United States and is in favor of the Democrats whose platform are all communist platforms. So now the Catholic Church, like for instance, Pope Francis with Cardinal Parolin had commanded the underground Catholic Church of China to submit themselves to the communist regime. Now, who would do that? To tell the Catholic Church to submit themselves to an atheistic philosophy that's condemned by the Catholic Church. But he commanded them. So very clearly, the Catholic Church under Pope Francis has become communist. And that's a heresy.
The first concern of the Catholic Church is the spiritual aspect of the person, not the material well-being of the person.
Well, the Catholic Church is concerned with both. With
Yeah.
both. That's why we have the physical works of mercy, the corporal works of mercy, and we have the spiritual works of mercy. But more important is the spiritual works of mercy. As St. Paul says, even if you perform and you feed the hungry and so on, but if you have no charity, you're useless. So the doctrine being taught now is not Catholic at all. Like global warming,
The
feeding the
concentration.
poor and immigrants. The trend of the Catholic Church, the main teaching is charity. You have to be charitable to everybody. But the way charity is practiced, like to the immigrants and to the poor, is wrong. Pope Benedict
it's
noticed that. He mentioned it in Caritas S, his first encyclical, that Catholics do not know what it means to be charitable. He says so.
Yes, it's to all. Why they pick? Why is it? Because that's communist picking on the poor,
For the poor, yes.
for the poor, and saying poor, and
It's a pretension.
you don't
only.
know what it
It's
poor
a
in
lie,
what.
yeah.
Yes, it's like a. Well, because I think, Father, if in just if they said it once for the poor, and then you say, oh no, then they say you have no charity for the poor. But actually, that's not their concentration.
Well, actually, the communists, like what the Democrats are doing now, they want the votes on
Of the poor.
And
That's
the
a lot.
moment, yeah, and the moment they're voted into office, they're not concerned for the poor. They're atheists.
Yeah.
They do not love God. If they do not love God, how can
Yes.
they love your neighbor?
Yes.
Christ says you have to love God first before you can love your neighbor.
Yes.
That is the reason why we have so many conflict, so many sufferings because of wrong ideas.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, so Father, like you say, if we agree, or whoever agrees with what the present papacy and the Vatican are doing, that means we are communists.
He's a communist.
So we'll be communists too if you agree with that.
Yeah, and
So
you
we
are
cannot agree.
automatically excommunicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the communists have always been against the Catholic Church, so it
It
cannot
has
be
always been.
against.
It's the most potent weapon of the devil to destroy the Catholic
Yes,
Church.
so we cannot agree.
We cannot, because the moment a place becomes communist, the first thing that will happen is they will persecute the Catholic Church,
Which they have done.
which they are doing now. Even the Catholic
Now.
Church is doing it now.
On the Catholic.
Yeah, persecuting the good Catholics.
Yes. Yes.
But how come they don't realize this, meaning the authorities of the church don't realize that?
Because they don't study. I mean, most of our bishops, our priests have no idea whatsoever of what is communism. And they have absolutely no idea what is Catholicism. Why would my companions in the Benedictine order join the communists? And I ask them, because they say they want to save the poor. I say, you save the poor with the gospel, not with communism.
Yes.
Yes, Father.
But in spite of that, they joined the communist movement.
When you say the communist movement in the Philippines, that's the NPA?
The
Or no?
Philippines, yeah.
Yeah, that's the NPA, no? No.
I suppose
I
so,
don't
yeah.
know. We don't know the words for them, but that seemed to be at least before.
Yeah, because later on, when the Philippine government began to persecute them, they fled to China. So I would think they were the idea of Chinese communism.
Okay.
We are in big trouble because the government supposedly supply the basic need of the people, and the church, the spiritual aspect of the person concerned.
Well,
If the Catholic authorities is leaning to helping the poor, which is a government concern, how's that, Father?
Well, the government's supposed to take care of the corporal needs of the people. The Catholic Church is supposed to take care of both the spiritual and the corporal. That's why we have corporal works of mercy, spiritual works of mercy. But the point is, what is more important? What is more important?
Yes, Father.
And when the liberation theologians or the Democrats in America is pretending that they want to help the corporal needs of the people, it's not the corporal works of mercy as envisioned by the Catholic Church. It's not.
I think though it's the motives, right, Father, for doing it.
Yeah, their motive is not really to help the poor. It's not that. It's really just to get votes and get into power and then rule and make them slaves.
The church is concerned about the material wealth or material being of the person. Much more so, the spiritual aspect of the person is more important.
Yeah, and so St. Paul says, most important aspect is charity.
Yes.
It's charity.
Could you explain further about the doctrine of charity? We have only 1 minute, Father.
Well, the doctrine of charity had been explained by St. Francis de Sales in 2 volumes, which is almost 1 inch thick, and so I cannot explain it in 1 minute.
The very essence of charity.
But the very essence of charity is for you to love God and neighbor, which no one can do unless God gives you the power to be able to love God and neighbor. That power to love God and neighbor must come from God. It's not man-made.
But what will be the basis of God for giving a person that power?
If you're humble.
Yeah. It is in Steps of Humility by Saint Benedict. And
Yeah.
also it was discussed by Clairvaux,
Saint Bernard of
Saint
Clairvaux.
Bernard of Clairvaux.
And it's described also in the book of wisdom in the Bible, the Old Testament, which means that the problem we have today is people are ignorant. They have no wisdom. Because the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God, and the fear of God is the first degree of humility.
I see. Thank you very much, Father. And thank you for watching Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. As I said, his dialogues is likened to a salt and light of our Lord Jesus Christ. Please continue watching Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. Thank you so much.
Hosanna